we're going to start off today talking about assessments. What typically does an assessment include and what does it cover?
An assessment includes usually my time going on site, and I will take a look at the infrastructure that's there. I'll take a look at the computers, I'll take a look at the server, I'll take a look at the server room, the internet connection, pretty much everything that the computer systems and the users use on the computer systems that they run their business off of. A lot of times, what I end up finding are things like degraded arrays where the hard drives on the server are in a state where they're about to fail. And then on top of that, a lot of the times the backups, they may have been set up at one point, but they haven't been running successfully in, let's just say, 200 days or 300 days. And I'll identify problems that are there and ready to happen. And all it takes is a bad power supply or internet outage or power interruption, and it pushes the machine over the edge and causes it to fail. Or they have an uninterruptible power supply, a UPS for short, set up on their equipment, and the battery's dead, and they never even know. They just hear this beeping coming from some corner of the office, and they never know what it is. A lot of times, people live in ignorance, and they don't know that their entire network is about to fail, and they just keep humming along like everything's okay until that day comes that their server doesn't turn back on, and they go, oh no, what do we do? And they find out they don't have a plan in place. And what I'll do with my assessment is I'll go and I'll identify these problems, what may be imminent about to happen, or things that may happen down the road, or just threats that they may be facing. And through this assessment, another thing that I discover is people whose core functionality is maybe accounts receivable or accounting or human resources management. They've been saddled with this additional responsibility of making sure that their equipment doesn't fail. And when I go in and do my assessment, what I'll do is I'll have a conversation with everyone about the things that they're doing or the pain points they're feeling as they're operating and working. And I'll find out a lot of times average user spends a quarter of their day trying to troubleshoot problems that they're having with their computer, where I may be familiar with the problem and I'll know how to, one, prevent it or stop it or alleviate and reduce the effect that it actually has on that person. And they don't realize people are wasting money, corporate resources, because they're inefficient, and we can spend time and identify these inefficiencies or problems or pain points and or imminent failures and address them before it really becomes a big concern.
About how long would an assessment take since you cover so much?
It depends on the organization size. A smaller organization, it can be done in 30 minutes to an hour. I usually try and hit all the major pain points in about 2 hours for most small and medium-sized businesses, because I don't want to rush it. I'd like to spend time, get to know the people who are using the equipment, what their problems are, and not all networks are the same. You walk in, and one small organization with 10 people, they may not have a server, and everybody uses a PC or a Mac, and all their data is in the cloud. Or somebody, same 10 user organization in the same industry, has 5 servers, 2 of them are virtual hosts, and they're running advanced firewall features with perimeter defenses, and they have spent a lot of time and money on maintaining or getting their network set up, but a lot of times most people don't know. So it's a variable, but I would like to say on average I spend about an hour to 2 hours for a small business network review.
Okay. Now, one thing that you mentioned that stuck out to me was the equipment failures and just a little push that'll send them over the edge.
Right.
About how often, when you go on these assessments, do you find equipment that is either failing or about to fail? And with the equipment failures, what is usually the solution?
The solution is, if you don't have a plan in place, you're going to be buying new equipment and building stuff up from scratch. I would say about 75% of the organizations I go into have some sort of critical failure about to happen. There was a time where I went out and did a review on a server, and I found out they had no backup in place. And just as part of the service or my audit at no cost to the client, I identified this. I found out that they had a spare hard drive that they could use to set up the backup. I set that back up. Within a month, their server failed. And because I had done that one free service on their audit, I was able to get them back up and running, their server operating system running off of a workstation until the client could then purchase that equipment. Then there was another case where I went out, the client didn't have a backup in place, and their server was in a degraded state where it was about to fail. And it was throwing warnings, but nobody was actively monitoring it. And when I went in and I saw all these warnings, I turned to the person. I said, you need to fix this right now because I don't know if you're going to be operational tomorrow. And we ended up getting a new warranty for their server, extending the life of their existing equipment. And good thing for them that we did this because we were able to get everything rectified and cleared out, new hardware installed, and their warranty ended up covering the replacement of the equipment. And this is just a lot of stuff that I'm aware of that through my experience, I know that these things can be resolved in a certain way with a minimal cost to the end user or to the customer, and it's a win-win.
Okay. How often, when we go into the equipment failure scenario, how often is it something small that costs next to nothing?
Well, next to nothing. I mean, that's always a relative. What can be expensive for one person can be an inexpensive expense for someone else. But what I do see, though, is the problem starts off small, is ignored, and then it becomes a bigger problem. Just like everything in life, if you run away from the problems or bury your head in the sand, this thing which had you gone in and taken care of it when it was early and a minor inconvenience would never have blown up into the big massive problem that may bring your entire organization down. So usually these small problems, they add up and they also waste time. So if you have a person who's spending a lot of time every day, they spend 2 hours trying to make sure their computer's operating the way they want it to, that's just sunk time and sunk costs and inefficiencies. Sometimes you can actually make more money by replacing dated equipment. The user becomes more efficient. Putting a solid state drive in a older machine is going to breathe new life into that machine. But if that machine's 7 years old and about to fail, I mean, it's everything's a little bit of a balancing act, and meeting what the customer's expectations are with what their budget is, with what their desires are, it can be a little bit of a juggling act. And that's what I do, is I'll do the juggling for you and put you in the right solution.
Nice. So it seems to be a recurring thing is a lot of wasted time. Other than the equipment failures and other than redundant tasks, is there any other way that we can save businesses time?
There's workflow automation. There's Microsoft has tons of resources in there. They're starting to leverage more machine deep learning and artificial intelligence, and this is all stuff that you can get bundled in with your Microsoft licensing if you get the right type of licensing. They have the focused inbox in Outlook. So if you want to have the machine learning assist you with organization of your inbox, that is available on the later versions of Microsoft Office and Outlook specifically. So there's a lot of things that when people get stuck working on things or the way they always have in the past, they don't open themselves up to the new possibilities, and technology is changing on a daily basis. And
Correct.
There's new things to automate, new integrations that you can leverage, and not being aware of some of these things that may be already available to you and you're just not using because you're not aware of it. It's a disservice to you and or you as a customer, and it's just a lost opportunity.
One of the things that I seem to have noticed is a lot of these people, when they try to take on new technology, they do it themselves and they misconfigure it and they lose some time that way. Do you run into that a lot?
All the time. A lot of times they will. I just recently had an opportunity to do some work for another company, and they had a professional IT company come in. They wouldn't know that it was misconfigured because their email seemed to be functioning, but they were missing a the colossal amount of the configuration set up. It was just missing. They had literally done the bare minimum to get their email set up and running. Now, having a third party come in and just take this review, whether that other person or that other company is the one who ends up resolving it, or if it's me or the person themselves, they don't know this stuff. They don't know what to look for. And if you don't go and actively look for problems, most people, if everything seems to be running fine, they're not going to actively look for problems because sometimes that costs money. But what I want to do is find the resolution to these problems before it becomes a problem with the minimal amount of cost.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.